Hi, Prosperity Team. It's Dr. Money, and I'm excited again to have another guest. You may remember Noelle Marshall that was on, and this is her husband, Bob Warner. And I said, will you be willing to tell us a prosperity story or a manifestation story or a law of attraction story? He's got them all. So he's picked out one that he's going to tell us. And so, Bob, you got it.
Let's see. We were invited to go on a sacred site journey to Glastonbury, Cornwall, and other places in England. And we were invited by the folks that were hosting us there. We said we want to go. That's it. Done deal. We don't have the money to do that, or at least our bank account didn't think we had the money to do that. But we knew we were called to be there, and we were called to be a part of not just visiting the place, but also being with the people that were the ones that were assembling and that were called also to be there. And we got a phone call completely unexpectedly from a woman who I had met one time at a spiritual retreat weekend with Barbara Marks Hubbard. Noelle, I'm not sure my wife had not even met her, but she'd been on a phone call that we hosted one time, and somewhere on that call, she was talking about her relationship with her mother, who was deceased, and I was talking about my mom. And so she called us and said, I can't decide whether I want to go on that trip to Glastonbury or whether I want to go on another trip someplace. And she said, and I want you and Noelle to be traveling with me. And of course, we didn't know what that meant. We'd only met her one time. I'd met her one time. We didn't know whether she was aged and she wanted us to push the wheelchair or what. And she is definitely not that. Beautiful artist from Oregon. And she said, we said, well, what do you mean you want us to be there? And she said, I'll pay your way. You buy your airline tickets, I'll pay. And we said, did you realize how much the tuition is for this? And she said, no, how much is it? And we said, well, for the two of us, it's $6,000. And she said, where do I send the check so that you can sign up right away? Oh. And so we caught our breath, said, this is spirit in motion. We know this is where we're supposed to be. We knew we were supposed to be there. We didn't know how that would happen. And that was it. We kind of recovered for a couple of days, and we called her and said, now let's get this straight. Is this a loan? Is this a gift? What is this?
What is this?
And so she said, well, let's do this. She said, by the way, we had just had, this was just after 2008, we had a devastating financial change in our life. I mean, real big time, devastating change. And so she said, why don't we do this? Why don't we call $1,000 a gift from my mom and $1,000 a gift from your mom, and the other $4,000 if you come into some money sometime and you want to pay me back, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine too. And so we said, okay. Months later, before we went on the trip, she called us and said, I'm not going on the trip because I've never visited the old country in Europe where my family is from. There's an opportunity for me to take some of my grandkids with me. I'm going to go do that. So I'm not actually even going on this trip to Glastonbury, the spiritual journey. But you guys are going. And that's what was intended, because that's what Spirit intended for us. And so we were off to the trip, and that's what we did. And later, something happened in our life. I don't even recall what the details were, but within a year, something happened in our life, and we got a chunk of money from a estate settlement of Noelle's mom or something or other, and we said the first $4,000 we're writing a check back to Rita. And that's our story. That's another of our many stories of manifestation.
Wow. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Bob. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm Dr. Money, and I want you to remember one thing for sure, and that is that I love you. How about you, Bob?
I love you too.
Good night.